And the start of the newspaper review, Dr. Ashanti joins the conversation. Doc, good morning.
Good morning, Ben. How are you, my brother?
I am well. It's a wet morning. I hope you're well too.
I'm very well.
God be praised. Quickly, we shall take your brief thoughts for the morning and then move on to other things. One of the things that has been on my mind, not to give you direction, but the whole bit about the Amenfi East, I believe, parliamentary candidate of the MPP. And I'll not stop talking about it. I would have spoken about it if it had been anybody else. And the dastardly comments about attacking soldiers and other officers of the law by illegal miners. He comes out to say, oh, I was referencing legal miners. But guess what? A soldier, in the aftermath of what he said, has been attacked, nearly killed. Your thoughts, anyway, on what you'd like to share?
Ben, I think that's an important subject. I've dealt with it on your network already, but I will touch on something equally important. That is you'll recall that I think yesterday, the majority leader proposing a bill relative to free senior high school, that they want to make it a law now, that no government which comes after this government will, by law, will have to implement that and all that. Beautiful idea. Yes, you want to really deepen education in this country and the rest of it. I am happy. But first thing first, there are things we need to do as a state. It's not necessarily the case that you want to promote the law so as to make that right justiciable. So that it's not only prescribed in the Constitution, but it's giving protection by the law court. All those fine legal arguments will follow. But basic things first. What are the basic things? This program, in spite of its benefit, we've realized that there are a lot that we need to do in terms of overhauling it. Resource, infrastructure, and then timely release of resource to the schools and all that. These things are critical things that we don't need to shove them under the carpet. So I would love to see a situation where we deepen these things very well, not necessarily passing a law. Let us remember that already this program is on. If you read Article 25, 1B, it said education will be made progressively free from all the primary, senior secondary school and all that. And if you look at Article 38.3, it said, yes, pre-university education to university education, the state will take steps to make sure that they promote that equal access or not. But there's something that the Constitution says, and permit me to touch on it briefly. It said the state shall, subject to availability of resources, provide equal access and balanced access to secondary and other appropriate pre-university education. So it tells you that there are certain basics you need to get it right. Let us have what? Resources, and then be able to drive this program to its logical conclusion. Not only resources, but we should be able to release them on time. Time and again, we have had schools that the resources are not available. We don't have food, we don't have this. Let us make sure that we have those things in place. Let us make sure that there is what? Feeding is consolidated in secondary schools. And you and I have suggested the idea of bringing back a school guarding system and all that. This will help, go a long way to help. And then motivation of teachers. You need to motivate them so that they give their all to support the program. That is critical. So we are talking about remuneration, attractive. Of course, we also need congenial atmosphere so that teaching and learning can take place. And of course, we also need teaching and learning materials. You and I are alive to the situation that some of the schools do not have certain books and all that. And when the program even started, there were no textbooks. It took government a while before they started producing books and all that. I don't know whether now all the components of the books that they require, they have them. We need to do all these things and then have infrastructure development in these schools. Once we are able to do this, anything that you want to add to the law, it's fine. But other than that, please, let us stay where we are and then deepen the infrastructure development, deepen the basic resources that we need to push the frontiers of education. I think that is a way to go.
Well, thank you very much. So just a quick question. If I asked you, should free SHS be made into some sort of law, as some are suggesting? And of course, you can understand someone wants a legacy to continue. The free SHS idea is not bad. Like you mentioned, FQ, even from our constitution. But in its current state, and it's a conversation we're having this morning, in its current state, is it fit for purpose? And again, is this something that should be hung around the neck of governments to come, preventing them maybe from exercising certain changes? What is your take?
I think change is always necessary. The program, there's nothing wrong about the program. What is wrong about the program is that it lacks resources, it lacks proper planning, it lacks evaluation and all that. Let's get all those I's dotted and cross all the T's. Once we do that, and then hanging it around the neck of government, the Constitution has given us a clue. Article 38(3), it said, look, subject to, look at what? The state shall, subject to availability of resources. Do we have the resources to do what we are doing? That is the conversation we need to start first before you make it what? Something around the neck of every government. Otherwise, then you are not fair to your own self. Do you have the resources? It's a good program, but do you have the resources? Should government forget about everything and push all the resources there for the state to die and all that? You need to do all the fine, working around this program so as to bring the best. Otherwise, I think we have to go slowly and make sure that we consolidate it and we firm its root to let it stand.
Let's get into the papers now, and I'm going to start with the Ghanaian Times newspaper. The first story there breaks my heart. You know, sometimes we're our own devils. Sabotage. Thieves vandalize, steal oil from transformers, plunge parts of Sekondi Takoradi metropolis into total darkness. It's a story I will do. Ambulance case, minority to boycott Parliament in solidarity with Atoforsen. Government to push for passage of free SHS bill by Parliament to make it legally enforceable. And Togolese political party visits Ghana to seek support for restoration of democracy. Quick thought, though, on this bit about free SHS. Maybe we should legislate as well on some things like abandoned projects and ensure that when one administration starts something that is good, we have to continue, because if you're going to legislate on free SHS, which I don't necessarily disagree with, how about Saglemi? How about the housing projects that Kufuor started? How about the myriad projects that look at the bank hospital in cantonments? I actually personally, many years ago, had to make a lot of noise about that. I don't get it. So if we want to legislate on this, then we must use common sense as well and legislate on things like projects so that you can't come and refuse to do certain projects. I mean, in a certain category.
Even there, you know that the Constitution mandates all governments, successive government, to complete programs that had already been started by previous government. And they are refusing.
Yeah.
I mean, that hypocritical position, we need to abandon that.
Right. So let's get into the stories. There's also Togolese political party visits Ghana to seek support for restoration of democracy. So presidential candidate of the Togolese Movement for Restoration, Dr. Jean-Emmanuel Nyagnon, has arrived in the country to confer with some key institutions and individuals to seek their support for the restoration of democracy in his country. Dr. Nyagnon is being accompanied by his running mate, Advocate Brice Afacho Kpoto, and some executives of the MTR, or as the French would say, MTR. The team would interact with the National Peace Council, the Christian Council, and civil society organizations and governance, among others. They would also meet Sheikh Dr. Osman Nou Sharbutu, the national chief imam, to seek his support on how to deal with the political crisis currently raging in Togo. Doc, you're fairly familiar, I believe, with the issues there and the tweaks as far as the constitution is concerned. And for Nyasingbe continuing in power. Two people, his father, Eyadema, and now he himself ruling for how many decades now? I'm not even sure, whether it's 4 or 5 or maybe even 6. It's quite an interesting picture in Togo. But let me add some of the other stories. So the government will, in the course of this meeting of Parliament, present to the House the Free Senior High School Policy Bill. The Majority Leader, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, has indicated. Mr. Afenyo-Markin mentioned that though the Constitution provides for the pro-poor education policy, in enacting the bill would render it legally enforceable. In a parliamentary leadership engagement with the Parliamentary Press Corps in Accra yesterday, the Afutu MP said it was critical to commit successive governments to the policy so as to continue giving the Ghanaian child the platform to get educated, irrespective of their financial background. Like I said, then let's broaden the scope. Let's help the NDPC, the National Development Planning Commission, to actually follow through on projects. Then we'll have a way, not this bit about being selective and maybe legacy, because of course, if you read between it, someone wants a legacy left. We have no problem with that, but can we extend it to others who also wanted a legacy for other things? We can do that so that the taxpayer stops bleeding. Doc, let me just add this one, and then we can get into the details. Let me go to page 9. I'll add one and later add another one. So thieves vandalize steel oil from transformers, plunge parts of Sekondi Takoradi metropolis into total darkness. Parts of Sekondi and the Sekondi Takoradi metropolis in the Western region were on Monday plunged into total darkness after suspected thieves vandalized and siphoned oil from the transformers serving the area. They damaged the 200 kilovolt amperes ground-mounted transformer and drained oil from the 2 transformer switches connected to it. According to the district manager of the Electricity Company of Ghana for Sekondi, Mr. Martin Jan, the oil siphoned was critical to the functioning of the transformers. He says the oil cools the windings in the transformer and also serves as an insulation to the coils in the transformer. He explained to the Ghanaian Times in an exclusive interview yesterday. But I'm asking myself here, Doc, what kind of protection do we give these transformers, knowing how expensive these items are? And how, it's coming from taxpayers' money. Anyway, your quick thoughts on these 3 stories. Free SHS, you've already started talking about it. And then this sabotage Togolese, and then Togolese party.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate that we are experiencing this. It's becoming one too many. You and I know that anytime there is a lorry accident, you see people, especially vehicles carrying oil. As soon as there is accident, people rush there with their gallons, bottles, containers, go and siphon oil. I mean, this practice has been on. Now look at the level we have taken it to. If you extend the conversation to what drainage that we have in this country, you will see the covers, people are removing them. If you pay attention to even roads, you see some of the metals they use in construction of the road by separating certain things in them. What do you call the one near Legon, going to Medina, is also attacked there. So there is a certain culture where people are taking undue advantage and then, destroying the state gradually. But we as a society must rise up and then get them, apprehend them, and hand them to appropriate authorities. I think that's the way out. One day I was driving and I thought there was a gutter there that was covered, and only realized that I've, run into the gutter without covers. People have removed these things. I mean, and it's unfortunate. I think all of us should assist the security and get these people arrested. They are the enemies of the open society. We need to get them out. The issue of Togolese party coming here to, as it were, get some tutorials about how to restore democracy.
That actually reminds me of the days of Olympio.
Yes. Yes. A lot of people come here for tutorials, for democracy. And then you remember, even before independence, the struggle for independence here was gradually becoming a mecca of training for revolutionaries to go and topple their government in the era of colonialism. So gradually, for me, these things also gladden my heart in the sense that then it tells you that Ghana is gradually becoming a beacon of democracy. We need to hold on to this. not only just be excited about that factor, but we need to deepen the democratic culture, strengthen the institution, and make it work, and then deliver the good that the public needs. That is all that we need. The Togolese, I think it's a good step. They need to learn and learn fast, and also borrow from experiences of other jurisdictions, so as to walk the talk. It's a difficult one, because if you look at how the Yadima's family has entrenched itself for a very long time, it's a cause to worry. But my worry also is the fact that African leaders, especially the sub-regional body, ECOWAS, has sat down and had done nothing to deal with this third-term agenda, where people want to rule beyond what the Constitution gives them. They tweak the Constitution and have forever tenure of office, and then the rest of them. This is unfortunate. So our leaders must put their foot down and stop the hypocrisy by allowing those elements to reign supreme in the sub-region, and then develop democracy. Yes, I am for democracy any day, any time, even though I acknowledge that democracy is not foolproof. It has its own problems. But for me, compared to other systems of government, I'll go for democracy, because it is the only game in town in this time around.
Let's get into other stories very quickly. Will grant equity stake in mineral resources to chiefs on page 8 of the Ghanaian Times newspaper. That's according to Dr. Bawumia. The vice president and the flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, has proposed granting equity stakes in mineral resources to traditional leaders within the respective jurisdictions. Now, the development, according to the vice president, would be a major solution to tackling illegal mining activities in the country. He also explained that the involvement of traditional leaders in land management in collaboration with their district assemblies could serve as a deterrent to illegal miners who would often exploit loopholes in regulatory systems. Dr. Bawumia spoke at an engagement with professional bodies as part of his tour of the Ashanti region. Not a bad idea, Dr. Vice President, but he could start with the parliamentary candidate for Amenfi East and what he's been saying about beating up officers of the law when it comes to illegal mining. You could start from there. Krowa MP welcomes Mahama's promise of timely delivery of essential supplies to fishers. The Member of Parliament for the Krowa constituency in the Greater Accra region, Dr. Nam Mumulate, has hailed former President Mahama for his decision to ensure timely delivery of essential supplies to fishers in his next government. She said her constituency, with a rich fishing heritage, had been on the downward spiral, or a spiral, so to speak. And upholding such commitments as envisioned by the former president was the only way the industry could be revived. I believe she's an NDC member of parliament, so fine. I mean, NDC to NDC. But my question then would be for the former president. While you were president, what did you do in this regard? The rhetoric? And then I'll end with this. Since they are all political stories, then we can move on. Ambulance case, minority to boycott parliament in solidarity with Atufosem. The minority caucus in parliament has served notice it would boycott proceedings of the House anytime its leader, Dr. Cassiel Atufosem, who is standing trial in the ambulance case, is due for court. Now, the caucus explained that the decision follows the refusal of the trial judge, Efiasewa Asariboche, to grant a request from lawyers of Dr. Fosun for the leave of the court to enable him to attend to, quote, important parliamentary business yesterday. And they say as long as this continues, they will continue to boycott parliament. Quick thoughts, Doc?
Yeah. I think the minority position is a difficult one for me to take.
Right.
Yes, I agree that you want to, give moral support to your colleague to fight a battle in the court. Fine. But is it the case that all the time that the gentleman goes to court, you want to abstain from the proceedings of parliament? That is unfair. And that, for me, I think is unfair. Yes, because touch wood, imagine any of the leaders is sick. Somebody will obviously walk into the shoes of that person to let the business of parliament continue. You will not say that, yes, because the person is sick, you'll be at the hospital forever before, he recovers and all that. Same way, I don't think that if this case is to travel so many months, you are saying that you are not going to parliament. Is it fair? Are you doing the representation function of the people? Are you serving their interests? I think they have to look at that. For me, I don't get it. I think that, yes, you want to, lend your support to your colleague, fine, you can go there, but come and work. And that is why you were put there. And for me, they should look at this again.
Okay, all right. On the back page, we deserve win over Central African Republic, Otto says so in that thriller in Ghana, where in fact Jordan Ayew netted 3, and now he scored 4 in 2 matches. There's also Manasseh Augustine wins PGA Masters 20, and Mofa Productions rolls out Euro's documentary. It's a Moses Fuamwening Productions is set to roll out a special documentary series on the upcoming European Championship, Germany 2024, on Ghana television. Let's get into other papers very quickly. The Daily Guide, Ashanti goes wild for Bawumia. Kennedy joins campaign. Okudjato Ablakwa dragged to Shraj. NACOC impounds 166.88 kilograms of cocaine at the Kotoka International Airport. Arrest 2. Do you know what that means? 166.88 kilograms. If you don't get worried, then you may have forgotten that at a point we were on the verge of being declared a narco state many years ago. You remember the Kokunte getting missing. You remember for a while we were put on several watches. We were even blacklisted, if I recall correctly. So this is a great cause for worry. And once you start doing these things on the international level, you make it difficult for travelers. Because now, ordinary Joe, you are traveling and then there'll be... I remember an incident where at some airport, we're being searched like crazy just because of the country we were coming from. Not Ghana, but we were returning from a certain country. And that country, so the search was brutal. I mean, people felt very invaded. But that is what happens when these things are going on in your country. But let me get to the details. There's also free SHS bill in the offing and then the ambulance case. I'll go to the first one. Ashanti goes wild for Bawumia. So the popularity of the new Patriotic Party flag bearer, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, once again came to bear when he visited the Swami Mazin in Kumasi to campaign yesterday. A sea of enthusiastic people in the enclave came out in their numbers to welcome the MPP flag bearer, who was clearly impressed about the warm reception that was accorded him. The crowd, which consisted mainly of artisans, had left their shops just to show their love and affection for Dr. Bawumia, who has been widely praised for his exceptional performance as the vice president for almost 8 years. Interestingly, some of the artisans who were on Cloud 9 met Dr. Bawumia's convoy at the Swami roundabout and followed him to the venue of the meeting where their colleagues were waiting. You know, one thing I have learned, though, about Ghana is that crowds, it's like Sir John said, fear delegates, but in this instance, fear voters. I've seen instances where you would see the NDC with huge crowds. They can lose in that same area. You go to places, you see the people with huge crowds, and I don't know, you're a political animal as much as I am. So when I come to you, I know you'll reflect on that. But then, in an intelligence-led operation by the Narcotics Control Commission and the UK National Crime Agency on Monday, June 10, 2024, a 166.88 kilogram stash of substance suspected to be cocaine has been intercepted at the Kotoka International Airport. The substances, with an estimated street value of $6,480,000, were seized from the luggage of 2 British nationals traveling together. Information from NACOC indicated that the individuals identified as Hall Shamin Ethelene and Graham Omar Adele were both passengers on a British Airways flight bound for Gatwick in London. It said the intercepted drugs were concealed in checked-in luggage. Mind you, checked-in luggage, comprising 3 bags per passenger, each bag containing 24 parcels. Hall Etheline's luggage included bags 734134. It goes on into certain details. But both passengers have been arrested and are currently assisting with ongoing investigations. I hope so. I hope so. And I hope that somehow they don't disappear. And I hope that somehow UK intelligence, because it is clear that if UK intelligence hadn't stepped in, they're checking in and all of that, who knows? And you see how they will prevent it because they know it is headed towards their country. But if it were headed somewhere else, who knows? Your thoughts? Bawumia and then the cocaine.
Yes, I think the cocaine thing. We have been free for a very long while. So we are getting worried when we begin to have this type of illicit activities taking place here. we will urge the security apparatus to put their foot down and then make sure that anybody who crosses that line will not be spared. We need to enforce the laws rigidly to save the image of our country and ourselves, and then save people who travel all the time from going through unnecessary searches and the rest of them. Sometimes it's very inconveniencing and annoying, but hey, what do? You have to bear it. So I'll urge the security people to work effectively,
Right.
as always. Let's look at the issue of Bawumia visiting Kumasi. As usual, is to be expected, but he should not be deceived into believing that the crowd that you see going to translate into vote. In propaganda, if you study propaganda techniques, you mentioned that where people take pictures of crowd and splash it on television screens and all that for you to know that the right thinking people are here. So why don't you join? It turns out to be what? Nothing but what? A lie. It's nothing but what? Bandwagon effect. So that they tell you that, yes, the more people are here, right thinking people are here, why are you at the other side? Is it always the case? We look at the work you have done. Election is based on what? Your work. It's a referendum of your work. And then ideas, contest of ideas.
But he says he's been touted as the best performing VP in this Fourth Republic. So if you say work, is that not his work?
I know that one of the grounds for selecting a vice president, if you check all over the world, is that you are going to complement the ticket of the president. You are going to strengthen where he is weak. So you bring on board certain skills or knowledge that the president doesn't have. The president said all over that he brought him in as what? As somebody with knowledge in economics.
The economic whiz kid.
Today, yes, is that what we are seeing today? I think my vice president, your vice president, is more of an technology or digital man than the economics that we know is supposed to play. That is the reason. There are about 4 reasons why we select a vice president to partner the president. And one is that you bring in something to augment what the president has. And then you also have capacity so that in the event that the president is not continuing, you will follow up and then step into his shoes and then take charge of the country. And so back to what I was saying, the real issue is that voters do not vote based on what you tell them, but what they see, what they feel. And these translate into things like how well is the economy,
right,
which has direct bearing on their lives. They want to check that. Are the fundamentals okay? Are they weak? When they are weak, they will expose you, all right, and they will vote against you. Do they have the fair share of infrastructure development, which the Constitution says they should have? Is it the case? The fight against corruption, have you been able to win that fight? Or is just a talk show or a lip service you are paying? So all these things will come up. So I think it's not that simple. You should be sober on these things and reflect. And then I've realized that he has started promising.
For example, when I look at the Ghanaian publisher, and I fear for both the former President Mahama and the current vice president, both flag bearers of their parties, because some of the promises, I listen to the promises and I ask, you want to do a promising spree? If you look at the Ghanaian publisher, Bawumia pledges herbal medicine fund. I mean, all kinds of things are being said. On the digital fund, I think one of those I heard, 1 million jobs in the digital for youth. Then the former president, like we read, fishermen, so many promises are being made. And sometimes I ask, is it just that we've got to the point where we must make promises, whichever the promises may be or whatever they may be, just to court attention? Or we have a focused regime where you make promises along, you see, you can have a trajectory so that you can see that promise A feeds into promise B, B feeds into C. So there's a synergy. But some of them, they are so haphazard. I don't know, but maybe I'm overthinking it, maybe.
No, you are thinking right, because if you look at the promises that they give and compared to the previous ones, mostly the same, and they remain unfulfilled, then you ask yourself, why are you promising again? It tells you that a lot of thinking do not go into this. They think that when you promise, you keep on promise, but this time around, you and I will push them to that level where you work out the mathematics so that we know how you're going to fund it. If there is a need for funding, where is it going to come from? At what point in time should we expect that? So that it's not that simple and you deceive our people into believing that the promises alone is what they should go home with. No.
Right. There's this story I have to blaze through because our time is practically up. Okudzeto Ablakwa dragged to Shraj. The Member of Parliament for North Tone constituency, Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, has been dragged to the Commission for Human Rights and Administrative Justice by the Deputy Director of Communications for the MPP, Ernest Kofi Owusu-Bempah-Bonsu. The petition is to expose an alleged conflict of interest, breach of constitutional provisions, as well as deception and non-compliance with the Code of Conduct for Public Officers. The petition, signed on Friday, June 7, 2024, by Ernest Kofi Owusu-Bempah-Bonsu, alleged that Mr. Ablakwa was the director, sole shareholder, and beneficial owner of Volta Clenham Farms and Industries Limited, which was incorporated on September 2, 2021, violating the Constitution of Ghana, which forbids MPs from holding any other office of profit. I also know that, is it Imani Africa, is being hauled to substantiate some claims made against the Electoral Commission when it comes to the biometric devices of the Electoral Commission. That story is also in the Ghanaian publisher. Ablakwa dragged to Shraj. Then there is Bawumia pledges Herbal Medicine Fund and Housing Hydrology Conference set for July. Then there's in the Accra Times, and I'm wrapping, Bagman to engage EC and Security Council, ensuring free, fair, and credible elections. And there's also this one, La Bianca boss is dead. That's according to the new publisher. News started filtering in from yesterday. May her soul rest in peace. And just something I'll add from the international front as an opinion. I shared somewhere yesterday. You see how former President Trump has been convicted. First time a president, former president, convicted of a felony. First time in American history. Then Hunter Biden, Joe Biden's son, also convicted, for his use of drugs and the possession of a firearm and all of that. First time a sitting president's child, has been convicted. And I ask myself, in this country, look at what is happening in another jurisdiction. The democracies we emulate. But in Ghana, you'll be hearing people waxing lyrical about due process. Do you think there they observe McCarthyism? Is that what they observe there? But you still can't get your foot away from it. If your foot has to face the heat of the fire, it will. It will. Quick thoughts on these last matters, and then we're good to go, Doc. Dr. Kwame Asante, are you with me? All right, so Doc is just reconnecting. We'll get back to him. But let me quickly do this. A very happy birthday, and let me just get this together, to Yakoba Nelly Ajemang. Today is your birthday. A very happy birthday to you, Grandma. God richly bless and keep you, and may you live long. Why am I tempted to call you Yakoba Nelly Ajemang the first? Anyway, happy birthday to you, and may God continue to shower his blessings upon you. Long life, health, and everything good. I would also like to, before Doc reconnects with us, celebrate the Malawi Vice President. I just found out yesterday, courtesy of Daniel Yadomelevo's post on Facebook, that he's a staunch Catholic, was in church every day doing mass, something some of us used to do, serving, leading the rosary and all of that, even as Veep. So humble. And unfortunately, this is what has happened. We commiserate with the people of Malawi as well. Doc, I don't know whether you heard my final comments about Trump and Biden before you went off. Well, it's unfortunate, but food for thought for all of us. We want to emulate other democracies, and yet we are always due process, and we'll never convict anybody because of due process.